What riots broke out in New Hampshire just 3 years before the Revolutionary War? Hi Founder fans, Jason here, and today we'll be discussing the Pine Tree Riots. Now, to understand the Pine Tree Riots, you need to go back all the way to the 720s, when the king decided to start marking trees in New Hampshire for his own. You see, New Hampshire had humongous, untouched trees, and they were simply perfect for making the mast or the main pole in many ships that the Royal Navy would sail. And because of this, well, the king wanted to make sure he had some for himself. So he passed a law that essentially said his men could go into the New Hampshire woods onto anyone's property and mark off a tree with a certain insignia that meant these are for the king. And for 50 years, this law was ignored and no one seemed to care. And then in 1772, all of a sudden, this 50-year-old law started getting enforced. And what they did is they sent certain people into different mills around New Hampshire and looking at the trees to see if they had the markings. And 6 of these mills did have markings that indicated these people were cutting down the king's property. And well, this was certainly unacceptable. So they decided to bring these people to court. And many of them did go to court. And they hired a man named Samuel Blodgett to help them with their trial. Samuel Blodgett, of course, went in and was instead offered by the royal governor a position working for the king as the royal surveyor. Well, this means he turned around and told the people, hey, why don't you just pay this settlement I worked out for you and you can keep the trees. And while many people did that, not everyone was very happy about this, and people continued cutting down the trees, the massive trees that were owned by the King of England. Now, before you get mad at Samuel Blodgett, he would later fight for the Patriots in the American Revolution, as well as build canals in and around New Hampshire. So he turned out all right. But as for the rest of the people, well, one town and several people did pay their fine, but in Weir, New Hampshire, the city of Weir, or town of Weir, New Hampshire, they refused to pay this. So the royal governor sent a sheriff and his deputy to go enforce these laws and arrest some people who refused to pay their taxes. Well, what do you know? They said, hey, I'll tell you what, we'll pay you bail tomorrow. Go to sleep over in our tavern over here, and in the morning I'll have your money. And they said, okay, and the sheriff and his deputy went to sleep. And when they woke up, they were awoken by 50 or so people in town who kicked in the door and started whipping both of them with branches and carried them out to their horse, which this kind of stinks for the horse. They shaved the horse's mane and tail and apparently cut off their ears, which I don't understand why they would torture the animal like that, but they threw the sheriff and his deputy on the horse and slapped it on the bum and told it to get, and it did get, and they ran off into the night. And this was the Pine Tree Riot. They were upset that they couldn't cut down their own pine trees on their own property, so they used sprigs from the pine tree to whip the sheriff and deputy and get them out of town. Now, there was a militia that assembled and returned. Most of the people, by this point, in Weir had evacuated into the hillside. But when they came back, the militia searched for them and they found several people and arrested them, and they were put on trial. What's interesting is the result of their trial was they were ordered to pay 20 shillings plus the cost of the trial. 20 shillings at the time was not a lot of money for a very severe crime, because they were tried with attacking a sheriff and, torturing this man who thought he was going to be killed while it was going on, by the way. But many of the people on the jury, or the justices, there wasn't a jury, just the justices who made this decision, well, they were patriots and they were not happy about many of the king's laws either. So that's why the sentence was seemingly light compared to their actions. So, fortunately, most of the people would end up fighting in the American Revolution who were in the riots. Samuel Blodgett, as I said, the lawyer who kind of didn't do his job very well, ended up being a patriot. Mishench Weir was one of the judges who passed down the light fine, and Mishench Weir would go on to be the first governor, they called it president, but governor and chief justice of New Hampshire for the whole revolution. The only person who didn't seem to side with the patriots in the war was the sheriff, Mr. Whitting, Benjamin Whitting, who was the one who was attacked. He did not seem to like the patriots, and he joined the loyalists. So that, in a nutshell, is the Pine Tree Riots. I hope you enjoyed this video. I certainly enjoyed making it. If you're new here, we put out videos 5 days a week, so make sure you click my logo here to subscribe. And there's another video right here you might enjoy. And I will be back with another Founder tomorrow.